and Wells Fargo. And a special thank you, deepest appreciation to Deborah Zipser and Craig Emanuel for helping us make this possible. As promised at the beginning of the evening, we're going to take a moment to announce the winners of this year's Student and Emerging Filmmaker Competition. And to do that, here is Emmy Award-winning festival curator, Shorts program producer, and the brain trust behind our competition, Opal Hope Bennett. Screen and to bring to you. So without further ado, I'm going to start with our student films. We have competitions in both nonfiction and fiction. And our student documentary running up this year goes to Healing in Color by Nana Adwa Frimpong. Nana's not with us, guys. Don't worry. You don't have a thing there for her. We're gonna mail it to her, but hopefully she's streaming. So greetings to you in California, Nana. Thank you for sharing your work with us. But our grand prize winner is by a former contestant who was honored as an emerging filmmaker and came back with his daughter this year, and they won the grand prize student documentary, Quarantine Kids, by Bilal Motley and his daughter Bria Motley. I thought they'd be with us because they were here last night. Well, we do have their award, but all right, moving right along. Okay, on to our emerging category. These are films made by filmmakers who made their first film within the past 5 years. So we usually have a broad array of folks who are sometimes just starting out, or folks who might have shifted careers and are a bit older. So our emerging documentary runner-up this year is When We Fight by Yoni Golev. Please give it a... Yoni said his mom would be here. Are you in the audience by any chance? No? Okay. And our grand prize, who's also not here, this is really anticlimactic, goes to Bad Hombre Wood, which is a brilliant film by Guillermo Torres. So congratulations, Guillermo. All right, our last category is the Emerging Filmmaker Narrative category. And our runner-up this year is Color by Carly Rogers. And the grand prize goes to Otis's Dream by True and Blue are the directors. But I do believe we have one of the producers here with us. Otis's Dream? Oh yes, please. And that's all we've got. On with the show. Thanks so much.
For those of you who haven't seen any of the films, all of them are on our festival website, and they're always very delightful. We get entries from all across the country. The first year, 2020, when we started doing this virtually, everything was virtual, and we were able to track that. We got submissions from 48 of the 50 states. We weren't sure what was wrong with the Dakotas, but we were asking people, is anybody there? So please look at all of the films on the website. So now we're going to unpack Acting While Black and this movement in French cinema with our panelists. First up is a friend of the festival and a filmmaker, the filmmaker of Acting While Black. We've screened other of her films in past festivals, and I'm so impressed with her output of information and educational entertainment. She is also an author, host of BET France, a global opinion writer for The Washington Post, and an activist at the intersection of race, religion, and gender politics. Here's Rokhaya Diallo. I used to be able to do that. Our next panelist is another friend of the festival. She's a digital storyteller, director, producer, and filmmaker who writes, teaches at George Washington University, and travels the world documenting issues that impact and involve people of the African diaspora. Please welcome Dr. Imani Cheers. Our moderator is also an activist, Afrofeminist, author, and scholar, specializing in studies on the U.S. and Afro-American diaspora at the University of Tours. We are so happy to have her with us on this side of the Atlantic. Please welcome Maboula Soumahoro.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. Is it on? Ah. Okay. This is really about cinema, isn't it? So is the light okay?
Proper lighting. Yeah.
Proper lighting for black skin? Yeah. Okay. Okay. I don't want to look terrible and ashy on TV. You know, like it has happened for far too long. So good evening, everyone. Yes, an audience talking back, which is always good. Thank you to the March on Washington Film Festival, and congratulations for your festival. And thank you for having me. This is a great joy and a great honor. So I hope I can become a friend of the festival. Okay, meaning I'll be back next year and the year after that. The French way. Anyway, okay, so we are just going to jump into the conversation. I have questions for Rokhaya Diallo, the director, and for Dr. Imani Cheers. And we are going to try to unpack what we just saw on screen, right? So perhaps we'll begin with a question for Rokhaya, very general question. Can you tell us about this idea for this documentary? How did the project come into being? What were you trying to achieve, and what were the conditions and circumstances of the production of this documentary?
Thank you. Thanks to the festival for having me. I'm really happy to be back here, and thank you for attending the screening. I'm really proud to show it on that side of the Atlantic. So the film was directed in 2020. Actually, it was not my idea. It was authored by Richard Connet and Ali Rebei, who have been thinking about that documentary for a long time. A documentary about black people on French screens for a long time, and the idea of the documentary had been rejected by many channels, including the public service. And at some point, Ali Rabi, who is the voice on the documentary, who is a very famous radio host on France Inter in France, dropped the project because he didn't have enough time to be part of the documentary. So the producers came to me in order to ask me if I was interested. And the thing is that I decided to take the challenge and I rewrote the whole documentary, realizing while I was writing that I had that idea in my mind all my life. Like I've been like thinking about representations of black bodies on the French screens for a very long time, so it really came very easily while I was writing, and I decided to put maybe more intersectional perspective, focusing on the very fetishization of black women on screen, which is a very specific experience, and that's how it started. So that was interesting because some of the producers who were white, they asked me to be the director of the documentary because I was visible in France, and I knew that it would draw some attention on the documentary, but at the same time I felt that all the way along they were afraid of what I was doing with the film. So it was an internal struggle, so I did what I wanted at the end of the day, but they were watching everything I was trying to tell about, even like starting the film with Lucien Jean-Baptiste saying that as a child the only example he had about something with an African background was Tarzan and the monkey cheetah. They told, like, I remember the film, the producer told me, "Oh, it's very violent to start like that." And he told me like I want the documentary to, I want people like average people to be able to to feel included while watching the movie. And I asked him like, what kind of average people? Because my mother is an average viewer, and she has no problem with starting the film that way. So are you meaning a white average people? And that was really interesting conversations while making the documentary, because like you always have this idea in France of speaking about the issues, but not really, willing to go deep into the issue.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And perhaps a follow-up question before I turn to you. Should I call you doctor or Imani?
Imani is perfect.
Imani. Dr. Imani is fine?
Yeah, whatever you like. I am just here. I'm just grateful to be here.
Okay. Rokhaya, perhaps you can tell us a little more about the general context of France at the time when you were making that documentary. Is there anything that we, the audience, need to understand about what was going on at that particular time period?
It was months before the global Black Lives Matter movement, and before that wave hit France. So it was the time when France was still thinking that black people didn't exist. So, it was not really easy, and it's interesting because the public service did not accept to buy the film, and it was bought by a channel which name is RMC Story, but the channel has in its how can I say, dans ses obligations,
it's part of the duties, or it's part of the
channel
statements
to represent diversity. So they had to do something at some point. And what was interesting is that the same channels who refused to have that documentary after the Black Lives Matter hit, here in France, aired a documentary about blackness in France. But it was only because of the wave that they realized that they needed to do something. So the film came a little early, and actually it was aired on TV the first day of the lockdown. So that was not good for the film. But the
rerun?
Yeah, the rerun, like the online rerun, were really successful. But the day of the first airing, everybody had something else in mind, so including myself. So it was not really easy, and I didn't have a chance to promote it because we were starting to focus on COVID and all the consequences.
Thank you. So Imani, can I ask you how you approach the film? What do you see in the film? What do how do you view it based on your expertise of, storytelling?
Yeah, the expertise of storytelling. But what I find so compelling in your work are not only the parallels of the stereotypical representation of Black people in film, but starting with Tarzan, moving to, I don't know about the audience, but I am familiar with like Omer Sy through Lupin. Is anyone familiar with Lupin? Right? So coming in and understanding that particular actor and his role, but not even realizing the decades-long career and work that he had done prior. We also in lockdown had many hours to consume content, but Lupin is one that I consumed in about a day. I didn't need many hours. I literally watched the entire series in one sitting, and I found it really, really compelling the way in which you were able to combine the historical context with also our contemporary challenges that ultimately parallel the United States in so many ways. As you just mentioned, the fact that, French audiences might not see their Black citizens as contributors to culture, and that's what I feel like. And I'm not trying to paraphrase for my colleagues or the entire African American diaspora, but we have struggled in the United States in a very similar way to be valued, to be seen, to not be stereotyped. The images of the minstrel shows that were in the very beginning of the film are still incredibly painful to see and to watch. So, I mean, I will keep my fangirl to a minimum, but it's such an amazing piece of work, and it's such a phenomenal story that we're just so grateful to see. And I just also want to preface, for those of a certain age, Gary Dudron, you might know him from CSI, but I know him from Janet Jackson's Again, okay? All right? For those who know the Gary Dudron, in a different world, right? But it was way before CSI, all right? Just saying. Put it out there.
So to continue this conversation, but I don't know if I should go back to Janet Jackson and the good old days.
I will always
and derail, or should we stick to the program? Is anyone, keeping the time? Because I think we're good. So the question that I wanted to follow up on, Imani, is what do you mentioned, you touched on it a little, what are the commonalities or the differences that we can, further delve into when talking about, Rokhaya's depiction of the Black French experience and your knowledge of, the African American experience, particularly in terms of, representation on the screen? Is there anything that struck you, surprised you, or that you recognized?
I think what's most compelling are the true parallels. So looking at the way Black French artists were viewed, especially my knowledge, my work, the work of my father, we go back to whether it be a Josephine Baker, but also we're really passionate about the way individuals such as a Gordon Parks, or individuals such as James Baldwin, and there are so many African American and Black artists who found that America was so hostile towards their Blackness that France was actually a place of refuge. And when I think of the fact that they went there for a place of refuge, knowing that it was also a place that refuted their entire existence. And that was something that I thought was a very interesting and compelling, parallel when you look at how there were so many Black artists throughout the 19th and 20th century that were fleeing the racial violence in the United States and fled and expatriated themselves to France at a time that French culture wasn't overwhelmingly as accepting of them, but it was more accepting than their country of birth. And it was more accepting of their blackness, although it was not willing to fully embrace their own black citizens. And it's a very interesting, disturbing, detrimental, storytelling lineage that I found that you did a phenomenal job of really exploring and really kind of leaving some breadcrumbs, because I hope those who have watched the film, who are engaging with the film, myself as educators who are showing the film in their classrooms, who are providing those parallels, which I think are really, really important and poignant.
Thank you so much. That's interesting what you. No, really. Sorry.
Ahead.
No, I wanted
to say. Can you respond?
Yeah. But I know you. I knew you were going to say that.
Just leave the stage.
Thank you very much for your comments on my work. It really means a lot to me. That's really interesting what you say about how France have been seen as a place of refuge for African American during the 20th century. And I want to get back to what actress Aïssa Maga said in the documentary, saying that like when the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air come to TV, it was a relief to her to finally see black people being respected. And she said also that African American have always belonged to the premium category of black people, and it was very different from the way African people people whose parents were African were perceived. So when Josephine Baker was dancing and very successful in Paris, it was the exact same time when France was a colonial power. So at the time Josephine Baker was celebrated, France was oppressing people in Africa, in Asia, people, all around the world. So there has always been that double standard. Even today, if you come in Paris as an American, you will not be seen the same way as I'm seen. And the same way when I come here and people understand that I'm French, I'm not part of your problems anymore. Like people speak to me about fashion, about cheese or whatever, but like they don't see me as being part of the historical argument. So like that narrative of France being so welcoming is still useful for our government. Like for example, Josephine Baker just entered the Pantheon, which is a monument that celebrates highly respected French figures, because Josephine Baker became French during her life. And like the way she was celebrated was for the French government a way to say, look, France is so not racist that Josephine Baker came here. And she's the proof that people who complain today have no reason to complain.
And she, if I may, and she's also the first black woman to enter the Pantheon, like ever.
Wow.
So
yes.
that's
all black. Yeah. Wow.
Yes. And that's interesting because as she fled the US, she was grateful to France. So there was no reason for her to say negative things about France. That's the reason why she is also celebrated. And the only moments when Josephine Baker criticized racism was about to speak about the US. When she came to speak to the March on Washington, and when she was rejected here in restaurants, hotels. So her position in France was so particular that she didn't have to deal with the same kind of racism that Africans had to deal with. And it's the same for all the other people who were there. Even if James Baldwin actually wrote about Algerians, because there was that kind of racism. He was there during the Algerian Revolution and the attack from France against the Algerian people. So that's interesting, like to see that still today, like French TV would rather show and display African American people than French black people.
So a question for each of you: what can we do about this situation? Should all black French people come to the US and African Americans expatriate to France? Or, like this, I'm sort of joking about it, but it's a real question. And it leads me to, combine the two questions that I'm asking. What does it mean for you, Rokhaya, to be screening, your movie today in, Washington, D.C., in front of, partly African American audience? right? And what does it mean for you, Imani, to be in conversation, like to be having this, transatlantic, Afro-diasporic, perhaps Pan-African, let's dream conversation. What does it mean for each of you to talk about those issues, to make the parallel, to, locate the commonalities, the tensions, the paradoxes?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just jump in first because I want to put it out there. I want to work with you. So I'm just,
with pleasure. Oh my God.
I'm just like claiming it right
now.
now.
Wow.
But I think, I mean, I've spent my entire 42 years as a Pan-Africanist and working and growing up, in particular in a South African context and an anti-apartheid context, but understanding the way in which the power of the medium and the power of storytelling and the power of film and the power of photography and the power of the image and how it can not only move societal norms, but also bring about a camaraderie and a sense of community. So despite the fact that we are having this transnational Pan-African solidarity conversation, we're actually really talking about the same issues, and and the way in which Black Americans are seen in television and film. And I love the montage that you did when you looked at everything from a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to a Cosby Show to A Different World, to like that entire montage I thought was really, really poignant as someone who grew up in the age of the 80s and 90s, and these were the images that, and A Different World, for example, just celebrated 35 years like 2 days ago, if I'm not mistaken, or 3 days ago, when that show premiered, and looking at the way in which we see all of these connections. And I feel that our lived experiences are far more interconnected than they are different. And so it's not surprising to hear and to reiterate that there were Black Americans that were able to go to France and be celebrated for their Blackness, while Black French citizens were being demonized for their Blackness. But the same thing was happening in America, right? And the same thing is still, unfortunately, happening in both countries. But my hope, at least, is that through storytelling and through the arts, that we can continue to find these connections and share common stories, because we are far more similar than we are different.
Thank you. That gives so much hope. Thank you so much. And to answer to your question, it's very interesting that you mentioned Omar Sy, as you say here, Omar Sy. Omar Sy, because right after his victory at the César, he moved to LA with his family. And he started to get parts in blockbusters, in Jurassic World, in X-Men. So that really gave him a kind of prestige. Because, even if France has a long history, it's still a small country compared to the US politically. And so people look up to the US. And when you are perceived as small in France, but you do something in the US, you're suddenly big. Like for me, being, writing for the Washington Post, being hired by Georgetown University, like spread mixed feeling among people who think, I'm too extreme in France. And that really gives you a platform and a kind of respectability that is very helpful. And for example, Omar Sy has raised his platform here by, being part of blockbusters. But at the same time, he's used that to sign 2 deals with Netflix, and the other one, I think it's with Amazon, to produce French content. So in Cannes, he produced and played the first character in a film that is named Father and Son, about a father and a son who come from Senegal in the First World War to fight on behalf of France. And so he's using his power actually to push French narratives. And I think that, that's also a way we can be, in solidarity all together, and also being inspired by each other. Because, having shows like A Different World, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, or like The Cosby Show, to us was really meaningful. But at the same time, it was also echoing something that was not possible in France. It's not possible to have an all-black show on regular TV in France. It's not possible to have, for example, a black channel. Like we do have BET, but BET is American. I was a host for BET in France, but it was, I was hired by the US.
But perhaps you can tell the experience, like
yes.
you joining BET, French BET. Perhaps you can share with the
Yes,
audience.
so when BET announced, when BET announced that they were coming to France, they presented a picture with two hosts that were not black. So they were not white.
Like in their promotional?
Yeah, the two hosts of the channel. So they were not white. So one of them was Asian, the other one was North African. But they didn't even think of having hosts that were black for BET France. And the response was of course, very angry. And that's how I came to be hired. Because the two hosts were actually friends of mine. And they didn't know what to do. They didn't even think that people would be angry. Like the B of BET.
First word. It's the first word.
It's very easy to understand the purpose of the channel. The name is very explicit.
You get lost in translation.
So that's something that is very French. Like to forget that something black have to be black.
That's very American also.
Yes.
We are more similar than we are
Yes, we are
different.
really similar. But at the same time, for me, BET as a host was a platform where I think it's the only place in France where you could have a black journalist interviewing black artists or intellectuals about things that were related to blackness or not, and that never happens, and that happens through an American platform. So that's still discursive way of doing things, but I think that that inspiration, the fact that things that are not really allowed in France exist in the US also give us strength. For example, you can speak about hip hop, for example, in France. How France was the second nation of hip hop, and in the documentary there was a short clip of that TV show which name was HIP, which started in 1984, and it was the first show globally about hip-hop, the first TV show on hip-hop. And Sydney, who was hosting the show, was the first black person to host the show in France. And I interviewed, thanks to Maboula, I interviewed Chuck D 10 years ago. She invited him in France, and he told me that at that time, for American rappers, the only place that could be on TV was France. So it's interesting how French minorities used that culture to frame their own concerns and to voice their concerns, and made it actually mainstream sooner as in the US. So that's also I think that getting inspirations from one another, and also using the rhythms that are made in one side of the Atlantic or in the other to be there, is also a way to work together.
And so what does it mean for you to be in the US today, or how have other screenings outside of hexagonal France been received? What was the reaction? Do you see, is there anything particular that has struck you?
Yes, I see that some here, for example, people are more shocked by what was the thing, some images in France are so commonly accepted that people don't react the same way. I heard some reactions here that I don't hear in France. And that was interesting, because we are to us it's so normal to see that comedian Michel Leb, or the cookies Bamboula that were sold until the 90s. I had some of them as a child. So that didn't, and Bamboula, there is an anecdote I have to tell you about Bamboula. So it's a cookies that was named Bamboula, and they created a park. And they made people coming from
a theme park,
an
amusement park,
yes. An African amusement park, and they made people come from Côte d'Ivoire to be part of the park, and it was in 1994. Yes, it's insane. It was in the west of France, and it was an amusement park open to the public, and people who were there complained because they were made fun of, and it was and it didn't spread any controversy at that time. And, you know, we are rediscovering it now, like today in 2022, but it was part of something that was, you know, very well accepted in France. And the amusement park was inspired by the cookies. So that's, yeah.
Do we need to say that it was a chocolate cookie?
Yes. I think that people understood the subtext.
Just making sure. Just making sure. Okay. So Imani and Rokhaya, what can you do together? What kind of stories can you tell? Can you make? Can you put on screen? What could be possible? What could be the dream?
Well, I mean, that's a really great question that also wasn't in our prep question. Totally put me on the spot, but I appreciate it.
That's based on the conversation we have.
It is. I would say that what I am really passionate about right now, and where I feel is one of the threads in your film, and also my work, is just really the representation of Black women on television. Mm-hmm. My first book is called Mammies, Matriarchs, and Mistresses, Black Women in Television, the history of Black women in television. And I have long wanted to sort of look at the way in which we are seen, but also in particular the way in which we're seen behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if anyone in here has seen a film called The Woman King. Maybe. Twice, good, twice, 3 times. I'm going again this weekend for the second time. But a director, Gina Prince Bythewood, who her first film, Love and Basketball, changed my life in 1999, and repeatedly. And I think of the way in which I've seen a lot of her press around The Woman King, and the conversation around the strong women in front of the screen, but also behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And so I think we should do something about Black women behind the scenes. I think we should.
I'd love to. And I thank you so much for I'd love to. And I have to say that I'm really sorry not to have mentioned Euzhan Palcy in my film. It's like my deep regret. I don't know what happened, but she's the first woman actually to have a César for being the best director in 1982 or 83. Wow. She's the only woman. She's the woman who directed
Sugarcane Alley.
Yes, Sugarcane Alley, but also A Dry White Season. She's the only woman who directed Marlon Brando. Really? And she's the only. Huge. Yeah, she's French. She's from Guadeloupe, Martinique. She's from Martinique, and she doesn't work that much now. No. I saw her. She got a prize, a very official prize, a couple of months ago, and it was very sad because she told that I love France and France don't love me back. And she wants to work, and she's so great. She's so, she was selected at the Mostra in Venice, but she doesn't work. And when Maimouna Doucouré, who is in the film, got her César, she really, paid homage to her work. She really told how she was inspired by her. And I think that we also need to tell about those women.
These Black women directors, I don't know if anyone also here is watching or has watched Queen Sugar. I'm obsessed with Ava DuVernay, but one of the things that I love about Ava DuVernay's intentionality with the entire 7 seasons of Queen Sugar is that it was all women directors. Mm-hmm. And when she went to Oprah Winfrey as executive producer and said, I only want to hire women to direct, every episode for every season, Oprah was like, I think that's great. But there are so many amazing Black women here as well as France that we're talking about it now. This is a pre-production meeting.
Yes.
That's what pre-production meeting.
Thank you.
Organized and hosted by the March on Washington Film Festival.
Executive produced by Issa Sarabay. You heard it here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Teamwork.
Teamwork makes the dream work. I'm serious.
Exactly. Perhaps to go back to the actual documentary, Rokhaya, can you tell us about how you selected the people you chose to interview, and where are they now?
So Aisha Maiga was obvious to me because she's the only Black actress that people can name. When it comes to France, if you name someone, she's still the only name. which came in mind. And she's also one of the few, if not the only, who's been able to have parts that were not written for black women. For example, the film that she mentioned, in which she's not on the poster, was not meant for a black woman. The character it's just a classical, rom-com, yes, with someone who could not have been black. So, and it was in 2006. Yeah, so she's a kind of trailblazer, and she also directed a film, a documentary about black women in cinema. The film is named Regard Noir, and in the film there are archives of her back to 2000 telling about being a black woman in French cinema. So she's been very consistent of that. She was the first, and she's been consistent. Even being successful, she didn't drop that part of her activism. So to me, it was obvious. I think that the others, I don't know. I wanted to cover, all kind of expression. I also wanted to have white people who had power to decide. So, because it was interesting, I cut a lot from that woman from Nguyen. She said things that wouldn't be. Yeah, that's more interesting, but she wouldn't look good if I kept those parts. But it was interesting because she was the head of M6, which is a very important channel, and she was also the one who was directing the channel when Sonia Roland get the part in Léa Parker, the TV series with the spy woman. And there are some people that many things have happened after that. For example, we can speak about the fact that last year during the César, Fatia, what's her name? So Maïmouna Doucouré directed another film, and Fatia, I don't remember her last name. She's very young. She's only 15. She got the best Meilleur Espoir, so the best
breakthrough.
Yes.
First.
Yes, as a female actor. Yes. For Cuties. Yes, the Netflix film. There have been some chances, and Alice Diop, who is not in my documentary, just won after my film, she won 2 prizes on the Berlin Film Festival, and she just won 2 Lions in the Venice film. She's French, she's a former Senegalese background, and she's great. Her film will represent France for the Oscars, so hopefully it will go through the category of the best foreign film. But there are many things that are happening. And Lupin just came after my film, and it's interesting because it's not French. I think it's authored by someone who is English. So and it's also strengthens the position of Omar on an international level, because I really gave him much strength. And so many things happened and are still happening now. Alice Diop, her film is, the 2 main characters are black women. And it's based on a true story. It's her interpretation, and it's about motherhood. And it's very interesting because it's the kind of people that you don't see on screen. And it's not even the topic. And when she won her prize in Venice, she quoted Audre Lorde. Our silence won't protect us. And she quoted her very purposely, and that was very powerful and very strong to have her, being awarded by Julianne Moore and quoting Audre Lorde, to just connect our stories as black women, all across the Atlantic Ocean.
Thank you. Yes.
So before we close up, there were just a couple of ends I wanted to share with you all that came up in the conversation. It was so much we could continue to talk about. When you mentioned Ouzan Palsy, we were hoping to have her here. She just won a special Academy Award, and her film, Sugarcane Alley, has been remastered and will be released in a few weeks. And we had wanted to air it now, but they asked us to wait so the remix could happen. But she was going to come. That is a very wonderful film, Sugarcane Alley. It's about a young boy in colonial island, one of the islands, it doesn't say, but his rite of passage, I showed it to my daughter and her friends when they were going through a rite of passage at about 12 or 13 years old. The other thing I wanted to note about Uzan Palsy is that several years ago, we showed another of her films at a family day. She did a film on Ruby Bridges for Disney that you can still see, and that's Ruby Bridges is the young woman who integrated the New Orleans public schools.
And
Yes.
if I may, Uzan Palsy with Sugarcane Alley used, a novel from a Martinican by the name of Joseph Zobel. So that's actually a novel that she adapted. And she was in her 20s. That was her first movie, and this masterpiece, I think she was like 25 or 26, and she got the involvement of the island, but also in hexagonal France for the release of the movie. She called on the Caribbean community. She said, you need to support the movie, and she called all the, on the Caribbean families that were in hexagonal France and said, you need to flock to the theaters so that we can get, like high sales for the opening weekend. And this was also a community moment, and they supported the movie so that it would stay in theaters as long as it stayed. And it is a beautiful movie.
It's wonderful.
And she was 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one other thing I wanted to ask you, Rokhaya, is can you tell us about your newest film? I just read like a couple of days ago about the new film you've done, and I said that might be good for our next festival. Tell us about Booty.
Ah, this one. So yes, my latest documentary, his name is Beautiful. And it's about, I was wondering how come, especially in France, because we've always praised very slim women. It's the image that we've had and that is promoted in France. And I've noticed that the younger generation were more and more praising women with, more round shapes and especially booties. And I saw that on Instagram, and I wanted to focus on that and to ask and to question how the booty have been such a criteria of beauty for the younger generations. So my film is on that, and is an exploration of that and how also it's connected to the history of the prejudices on the bodies of black women. So it was made for a younger audience in France, for a 15 to 25 audience, which is very interesting because it made me able to speak about all, hip-hop, Instagram. And I interviewed historians, sociologists, hip-hop artists, also dancers, about that, about and it's also about cultural appropriation, how, traditional African dances have been made very mainstream, and how many people think that Miley Cyrus invented the twerk. Yeah. And so it's trying to debunk also those kind of beliefs.
Well, good. We look forward to that.
Yes.
Please thank our panel.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Thank you. I just want to add something, is that the film Beautiful will be screened in Georgetown on Tuesday at 5. So if you want to come to see it, it will be screened in the first screening in subtitle in English. So come and see it.
Thank you. Thank you. Smart conversation. So before we segue into the next part of our evening, I just want to give you a taste of what else is still in store at the March on Washington Film Festival. Right after this, we'll say goodbye to our virtual audience. We will open that door to our DJ after party with DJ Terry the Hippie and Afrobeat music. So if you're all scared to dance, you can run away. But if you are ready to get down, it's quite all right. We have a full day tomorrow here at Eaton. We will have again all afternoon a VR salon, and these are finished VR pieces that have been done around social justice issues. And so you go upstairs on the second floor, you put on the headsets, and you sit in the chair, and you get to have a wonderful VR experience. Part of what we are working with in our equity lab is the movement of virtual reality from gaming to other aspects of life. Now, we know it's coming, right? We know in another 10, 20 years, we'll be doing everything VR some kind of way. But right now, we want to see how the medium can be used to help with the issues that are really important to people. We have a screening in the morning From 10 o'clock, right across the hall is a screening room, and you'll see the 12 films in our Student and Emerging Filmmaker Competition, the finalists' short films. At noon, if you have young people in your life, come back for the next narrative monologue performance and competition. So for over 20 years, Kenny Leon's True Colors Theater in Atlanta has been putting on a national teen monologue competition. For about 20 years, it was the August Wilson monologue competition, but in the last couple of years, they are now using monologues by emerging African-American playwrights. So we're going to hear from some of the winners, and then they will transition into a workshop for local teens to learn how to select, prepare, and practice, rehearse dynamic monologues. So if there are any actors in your life or public speakers, bring them back for that. In the afternoon at 5, the second part of our virtual reality lab is a fellows program where we've selected 3 fellows who have virtual reality projects that are in progress. They're partway, halfway through. So they will pitch those projects in order to win money to help finish their projects, and we are inviting the general audience to that. There'll be a reception right after, and this just happened this week. We'll be showing a sneak preview of a film by one of my friends and favorite actors. Her name is Sarah Jones. She won a Tony for her one-woman show on Broadway called Bridge and Tunnel. She's had several. Sarah does all of the characters and all of the voices. I met her early on in her career, and she told us about how she went to the UN high school in New York, lived in Queens, and in order to get some of her friends out of school so they could play hooky, they would go to the payphone. She would go on the phone, call the office, and imitate the parents' voices in their accents to get the Priya has to come home and Jose has to come home. She'd go through the panoply of accents to get them out. She is very dynamic, and now they've made a film of her most recent play, Sell By Date, and Meryl Streep is her mentor and the executive producer. So that's free at 8 o'clock here. The film comes out in theaters later in the month, but we get a sneak preview. And then on Sunday, our closing event, we're very excited about a new musical by Charles Randolph Wright. He is the composer of the Broadway musical Motown that ran for several years. And this one is on the life and in the words of Frederick Douglass. It's called American Prophet. It just had a run a month long at Arena. So we're going to have a concert of some of the songs from the play with the 2 leads. And Charles will do the narration and weave some of the script in between. That will be followed by a panel of some of the leaders of the regional theaters in the country, the Apollo, Woolly Mammoth, Arena, True Colors, and the new head of the Theater Arts Department at Howard University. So please join us for that. We're going to be talking about the state of American theater. So 2 more days of wonderful things. We hope you'll join us. Thank you so much this evening for joining us. Thank you for those on the virtual. Have a lovely evening, but stay for some food and some dancing.
Somebody's calling